Did you know that in 2026, the UK could quietly introduce laws that affect the way you live, work, and even move freely, without most people noticing until it's too late? Imagine waking up one day and realizing that rules you ignored are suddenly controlling your life. Your job, your family, your personal choices. Experts warn that these changes won't be announced with fanfare. They'll slip in through small legal shifts that stack up fast, quietly limiting freedoms we take for granted. By the end of this video, you'll discover exactly which laws matter most, why they're so dangerous, and a little-known change that could affect almost everyone in the country. Stay with me. It's time to take control before it's too late. Number 1. The 2026 legal shift. 2026 isn't just another year on the calendar. It marks a turning point in the UK's legal landscape, one that many people won't fully grasp until the changes begin to ripple through daily life. Experts are warning that a series of seemingly small reforms, when combined, could fundamentally reshape what freedom means for ordinary citizens and immigrants alike. These aren't flashy laws with headlines in the newspapers. They're quiet adjustments to existing regulations, technical rewordings of old policies, and new enforcement measures that slowly chip away at personal autonomy. Some will affect how you work, others where you can live, and a few will even influence how you interact with public services. What makes this shift particularly alarming is that it targets not one, but multiple areas of life simultaneously, creating a complex web that's difficult for the average person to navigate. Legal scholars are comparing it to a domino effect. Each small change may seem harmless in isolation, but together they form a system that controls and constrains, often without overt coercion. It's a subtle, almost invisible tightening of the rules that could turn familiar freedoms into privileges that must be constantly maintained, monitored, or proven. People who are unprepared may find themselves blindsided, struggling with bureaucracy, fines, or compliance demands they didn't even know existed. Meanwhile, those who pay attention now, study the patterns, and understand the early signs will have a significant advantage. They can plan, adapt, and protect their freedom before these rules fully take effect. Understanding the 2026 legal shift is about more than memorizing statutes. It's about recognizing a transformation in the way personal liberty is managed, enforced, and limited. In essence, it's a wake-up call. The world you once assumed was stable is quietly changing, and knowing the rules today is the only way to safeguard the life you want tomorrow. Number 2. Freedom at work. One of the most immediate and personal areas where the 2026 legal changes will be felt is the workplace, a place many of us take for granted as a zone of independence. Experts are sounding the alarm that new employment regulations, quietly set to take effect next year, could significantly alter how, when, and even where people are allowed to work. Flexible schedules that once seemed standard may now come with strings attached, and remote work arrangements could be subject to stricter oversight. Surveillance measures that track productivity are likely to expand, not in the dramatic sense of cameras and constant monitoring, but through digital metrics that evaluate every email sent, every task completed, and even patterns of online activity. For many mid-career professionals, freelancers, and knowledge workers, this subtle erosion of autonomy could feel suffocating. Imagine being evaluated not only on what you produce, but also on how consistently your behavior fits a government-sanctioned template of efficiency. It's not about laziness or underperformance. It's about a systematic shift where freedom at work becomes conditional and heavily regulated. Those who fail to understand these rules in advance may find themselves trapped in a cycle of bureaucratic demands, forced to prove compliance constantly, and limited in their ability to innovate, negotiate, or simply balance life outside of work. Conversely, those who stay informed can plan strategically, restructuring schedules, documenting work habits, and protecting rights in ways that preserve flexibility and personal choice. The workplace, once considered a private domain where adults exercise control over their lives, may slowly transform into a monitored environment where decisions are constrained, priorities dictated, and independence subtly eroded. Recognizing these changes now, and understanding the patterns behind them, is the key to maintaining agency and avoiding surprises. Freedom at work is no longer automatic. In 2026, it will be something that requires awareness, preparation, and thoughtful navigation to keep intact. Number 3. Surveillance and privacy. In 2026, one of the areas where ordinary citizens may feel the impact most sharply is in personal privacy. The UK is quietly expanding its surveillance and data monitoring laws, creating a landscape where nearly every online action, public interaction, or digital transaction could be tracked in ways most people don't fully realize. These aren't headline-grabbing changes. They often appear as small technical adjustments, clauses buried deep in legislation, or subtle shifts in how authorities and private companies are allowed to collect and use personal information. Experts warn that the cumulative effect of these policies could dramatically limit the freedom to communicate, work, or even express opinions online without oversight. Social media activity, online banking, and seemingly private messaging apps could all be subject to monitoring, meaning that choices once considered private are increasingly visible to authorities. While these measures are often framed as safety, security, or efficiency improvements, the hidden consequence is a gradual erosion of control over personal data. Individuals who fail to understand the implications may unknowingly share information that affects their employment, financial stability, or social standing. Furthermore, the laws introduce new obligations for compliance, documentation, and transparency, creating a subtle pressure to behave in ways that align with official expectations, even in private spheres. But there is a path to retaining agency. Learning how data is tracked, using secure communication channels, and carefully managing digital footprints can help maintain autonomy in an environment increasingly dominated by surveillance. For many, it will feel like walking a tightrope, balancing normal life with the constant awareness that actions are being monitored. In essence, 2026 will redefine what personal freedom looks like in the UK. It won't vanish overnight, but it will become conditional, dependent on knowledge, caution, and foresight. Those who ignore these changes risk being caught off guard, while those who prepare can navigate the digital landscape safely, retaining a level of independence that most take for granted today. Understanding surveillance and privacy is no longer optional. It's essential for anyone who wants to live with control over their life and decisions. Number 4. Travel and mobility. One of the most personal freedoms affected by the 2026 UK legal changes is the ability to move, both within the country and across borders. Travel, once taken for granted as a simple convenience, is quietly becoming more regulated, with laws that affect visas, residency, and even day-to-day mobility. Experts warn that these changes are subtle but pervasive, introducing requirements that may seem minor at first, like additional documentation, more stringent background checks, or new reporting obligations, but which, in combination, can severely limit the ability to plan, work, or even live freely. For immigrants and foreign residents, these restrictions could mean waiting months for renewals, facing unexpected denials, or navigating complex bureaucratic processes that consume time, money, and mental energy. Even UK citizens may feel the impact indirectly, as stricter border policies influence family travel, international work opportunities, and access to services abroad. The effect is not immediate or dramatic. It is gradual, creeping into daily life in ways that are easy to overlook until you are caught off guard. Imagine planning a family trip, a work relocation, or even a routine visit abroad, only to discover that new legal requirements have altered what you are allowed to do, when you can do it, or how long you can stay. The cumulative result is a sense of uncertainty that subtly shapes decisions and behavior, forcing people to operate under constraints they once didn't consider. However, those who understand these shifts early, tracking deadlines, documenting eligibility, and staying informed about policy trends, can navigate this evolving landscape with far more confidence. In 2026, freedom of movement will no longer be automatic. It will depend on preparation, awareness, and adherence to an increasingly complex system. For anyone who values autonomy, the message is clear. Understanding and adapting to these travel and mobility laws is essential, because what was once simple can quickly become restricted, and staying ahead of these changes may be the only way to maintain true freedom of movement. Number 5. Daily life restrictions. Beyond work, travel, and privacy, the 2026 legal changes in the UK are quietly reshaping the routines and choices that define everyday life. What may appear as minor adjustments to housing regulations, healthcare access, or local services can, in reality, accumulate into significant constraints on personal freedom. Experts warn that these changes are designed to influence behavior subtly, steering citizens and residents into patterns that align with broader policy goals, often without them even realizing it. For example, modifications to rental laws or property regulations could limit where people can live, how long they can stay in certain areas, or the types of agreements they are allowed to enter. Healthcare adjustments, such as changes to access rules, fees, or eligibility, might force families to make difficult decisions about timing or prioritization, adding stress and uncertainty to daily planning. Even seemingly mundane aspects, like accessing local services or engaging in civic activities, may be affected by new reporting, registration, or compliance requirements. The danger is in the invisibility of these shifts. Each individual rule might seem inconsequential, but together they create a network of restrictions that quietly reshape how people live, move, and plan for the future. The cumulative effect can be exhausting, forcing individuals to constantly track regulations, deadlines, and eligibility criteria just to maintain the lifestyle they once took for granted. Families, working professionals, and even retirees may find themselves adjusting routines, relocating, or paying extra fees simply to navigate this new reality. Yet, there is a path to preserving autonomy. Awareness, planning, and understanding the interconnections between these daily restrictions allow individuals to anticipate obstacles rather than react to them. In 2026, the landscape of daily life in the UK will demand vigilance, adaptability, and foresight. Personal freedom will no longer be a default condition. It will require knowledge, effort, and strategic planning to maintain, and those who ignore the changes risk being gradually constrained in ways they never imagined. Number 6. Social media and expression. In 2026, one of the most subtle but powerful ways UK laws may affect freedom is through social media and public expression. While these platforms have long been a space for connection, debate, and self-expression, experts warn that new regulations are set to redefine what can safely be shared, commented on, or even liked online. These changes won't necessarily ban speech outright. They are far more insidious, introducing rules that monitor content, flag opinions, or impose accountability for statements made in both public and semi-private online spaces. The consequences are far-reaching. Individuals may begin to self-censor, professionals may hesitate to voice legitimate concerns, and families might limit discussions to avoid scrutiny. Even seemingly harmless posts could be interpreted under evolving rules in ways that trigger penalties, fines, or administrative actions. What makes this particularly concerning is the combination of social pressure and legal oversight, which creates a climate where people adjust behavior proactively, often without realizing they are restricting their own freedom. These shifts are subtle, creeping into daily life like a fog, influencing decisions on work, education, and personal relationships. For instance, sharing professional insights, participating in community debates, or simply voicing an opinion about a policy could require navigating complex legal boundaries, turning ordinary digital interactions into high-stakes decisions. This new environment isn't just about compliance. It directly impacts productivity, mental freedom, and the ability to plan and act independently. Yet, understanding these rules and how they operate allows individuals to maintain autonomy. Using secure communication methods, understanding platform policies, and staying informed about legal expectations can preserve the ability to express oneself without undue risk. In 2026, freedom of expression in the UK will be conditional, dependent not just on what the law explicitly forbids, but also on how individuals adapt to subtle pressures that govern online behavior. Awareness, vigilance, and strategic digital habits will be essential tools for anyone wishing to navigate this increasingly monitored landscape while keeping the right to speak, share, and participate intact. Number 7. Families and dependents. In 2026, the legal changes in the UK are expected to reach far beyond individual citizens, directly impacting families and dependents in ways that are both subtle and profound. Experts are warning that laws quietly shaping eligibility for residency, healthcare, and social support are likely to create new hurdles for those responsible for children, elderly relatives, or other dependents. For parents, small legal adjustments could affect school admissions, childcare access, or even eligibility for benefits, turning routine planning into a high-stakes exercise in bureaucracy. For those caring for elderly family members, changes to residency, healthcare coverage, or local support services could make it increasingly difficult to provide consistent, reliable care without navigating complex regulations. What makes these shifts particularly challenging is that they often appear minor when taken individually. A change in form requirements, a new reporting rule, or a subtle eligibility adjustment, but cumulatively, they create a web of constraints that can dictate family decisions, relocation plans, and financial priorities. Families may find themselves constantly adapting, rearranging schedules, or reconsidering long-term plans just to maintain access to essential services and opportunities. Children and young adults may face limitations in education or mobility that previous generations would never have imagined, while parents shoulder the mental burden of anticipating each change before it creates disruption. The uncertainty introduced by these laws also imposes an emotional cost, generating stress, anxiety, and a feeling of lost control over what should be the most fundamental aspects of life: home, health, and family well-being. Those who understand these developments early, however, can take proactive measures. documenting eligibility, planning transitions carefully, and staying informed about policy changes can mitigate disruption. In essence, 2026 is set to redefine family life in the UK, transforming what was once assumed to be straightforward into a complex, rules-driven environment where careful preparation becomes essential. The ability to protect and support dependents will no longer be guaranteed. It will require vigilance, foresight, and a deep understanding of how legal shifts ripple through daily life. Number 8. Who benefits, who loses? As the UK's 2026 legal changes unfold, the question of who gains and who loses becomes increasingly important and alarming. Experts caution that these shifts are not designed to be equally fair. Instead, they tend to favor certain groups while quietly constraining others. High-skilled professionals, those with established residency, or individuals with extensive legal knowledge may find themselves relatively insulated from the worst effects. These individuals often benefit from early awareness, access to resources, and the ability to navigate bureaucracy effectively. On the other hand, mid-career immigrants, families with multiple dependents, and individuals in precarious employment or housing situations are more likely to face restrictions, delays, and unexpected hurdles. The disparities created are subtle but impactful. Access to healthcare, mobility, employment opportunities, and even online freedom may depend less on personal merit and more on your ability to anticipate and adapt to the changing system. What makes this divide particularly dangerous is how quietly it emerges. Unlike dramatic headline reforms, these laws incrementally create advantages for some while eroding the freedoms of others, often without clear explanation. The result is a social and economic stratification that leaves many people struggling to maintain their independence, autonomy, and quality of life. Even those who are currently unaffected may eventually feel the ripple effects, as restrictions cascade through families, workplaces, and communities. Understanding these dynamics is crucial, because survival in this new environment is not just about following rules, it is about recognizing the patterns that favor certain groups and adjusting strategies accordingly. Planning, information literacy, and proactive legal awareness are key tools for anyone who does not want to be caught on the losing side. In essence, 2026 is shaping up to be a year where freedom and opportunity will be unevenly distributed. Those who stay alert, informed, and prepared may retain significant control over their lives, while those who underestimate the subtle power of these legal changes risk being quietly constrained in ways that were once unimaginable. The landscape of winners and losers is emerging now, and understanding it is the first step toward navigating a reality that is far less predictable than it appears. Number 9. Expert advice you can use. In the midst of the sweeping legal changes coming to the UK in 2026, understanding the landscape is only half the battle. Knowing how to act on that knowledge is where true agency lies. Experts emphasize that preparation, foresight, and strategic planning are essential tools for anyone looking to maintain autonomy, safeguard freedoms, and protect family or personal interests. The first step is awareness. Staying informed about legal updates, consulting credible sources, and tracking policy trends before they affect daily life. Many people underestimate how quickly minor rules accumulate into complex obligations that can restrict work, travel, or access to essential services. The second step is organization. Keeping detailed records, documenting compliance, and establishing a system to monitor deadlines and requirements can prevent surprises and reduce stress. Legal professionals suggest creating a personal compliance checklist that addresses visas, residency, employment documentation, and other relevant obligations, making it easier to anticipate and respond to changes. Another important aspect is digital literacy. Understanding how online activity, social media expression, and digital communications interact with new laws allows individuals to maintain privacy and avoid inadvertent violations. For families, experts recommend proactive planning for dependents, including educational, healthcare, and housing arrangements, to ensure that legal shifts do not disrupt essential routines or stability. Financial preparedness also plays a role, as small fees or penalties can accumulate quickly if regulations are misunderstood or overlooked. Perhaps most importantly, experts stress the value of adaptability and a proactive mindset, treating these legal changes as manageable challenges rather than insurmountable obstacles. By approaching the evolving landscape strategically, individuals can retain control, reduce anxiety, and protect both freedom and opportunity. In 2026, knowledge alone is not enough. Acting on that knowledge decisively, systematically, and thoughtfully is what separates those who maintain independence from those caught off guard. Expert advice is not about fear. It is about empowerment, giving people the tools to navigate a complex, shifting legal environment while preserving as much autonomy and freedom as possible. Number 10. Take control of your freedom. As the 2026 legal changes in the UK begin to take effect, the most crucial step for anyone concerned about autonomy is learning how to take control of their own freedom. The landscape may seem overwhelming at first. New rules touching work, travel, privacy, family, and digital expression all converging simultaneously. Yet experts agree that those who approach this proactively will retain far more agency than those who wait to react. Taking control begins with information. Understanding exactly which laws apply to your situation, how they intersect, and the timelines for compliance. Knowledge alone, however, is insufficient. It must be paired with action. Organizing documentation, creating tracking systems for deadlines, and maintaining meticulous records ensures that you are prepared for audits, renewals, or unexpected administrative checks. Beyond paperwork, experts emphasize developing habits that preserve autonomy in everyday life. This includes digital vigilance, careful management of personal and professional online activity, and structured routines to handle bureaucratic requirements efficiently. Families can maintain stability by anticipating changes to healthcare, education, and housing, proactively planning alternatives and contingencies. Financial foresight is equally important, as unexpected fees or penalties can compound the stress of navigating new laws. Perhaps most importantly, taking control of freedom requires cultivating a mindset of strategic foresight rather than reaction. Individuals who adapt quickly, recognize patterns, and anticipate bottlenecks can maintain independence even in a highly regulated environment. In essence, freedom in 2026 will not be automatic. It will be a product of preparation, awareness, and disciplined action. Those who understand the landscape and act deliberately will preserve not just legal compliance, but the ability to make choices about work, family, mobility, and self-expression on their own terms. In a world where rules are increasingly complex and subtle, taking control of your freedom is the ultimate safeguard. It is the difference between being constrained by circumstances and navigating them with confidence, foresight, and authority over your own life. The 2026 changes in the UK may feel overwhelming, but your awareness and preparation can make all the difference. How are you planning to protect your freedom? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you missed our previous video on navigating UK laws and daily life, make sure to watch it next. We put countless hours into researching and creating these insights, so your support truly matters. Subscribe to our channel, it's just one click, and it helps us keep bringing you valuable content.